So one of the staples of Assassin's Creed is the iconic assassin robes. These range from great to not so great, but either way, they're fairly important. They're one of the first things I look at with every single new release, and so today I've decided to rank my top 10 favourite default hidden robes. I made sure they're the default ones, as I feel like the optional ones are sort of like a list of their own, and as per usual, this is just an opinion. I'm not trying to validate yours in any way. Like, at the end of the day, I'm a mediocre Assassin's Creed YouTuber who thinks assassin robes are like the peak of coolness. This really doesn't mean much, it's just my take. Anyway, without further ado, here's the number 10 spot on my top 10 favourite default robes in the Assassin's Creed series. So at the 10th place on this list, I put Shay's assassin robes. I know you spend most of the game dressed like this, but the starting robes are more in line with what this list is as the actual assassin robes, and these have a hood. Anyway, these are the only robes on this list I outright don't really like, and they're not awful by any means, but they don't really have the sleekness I like from assassin robes. You're also in this weird situation where there's a ton of colour, too much colour, with grey, blue, white, red and brown, but they're all really washed out, so they aren't particularly nice to look at either. They just generally have this really heavy feeling, and I don't really feel like they fit in much with the other robes, and on the whole, I don't really like Shay's robes. At number 9, I put Evie, and her robes aren't even that bad. These robes are quite unique in their short length, and they do feel very sleek, unlike Shay's. My main issue with these though is the colour. She does have those very dark red accents on the robes, but the rest of them are black. And I don't really feel like robes work very well in black, besides like the Thomas D. Canalian robes. Those are nice, especially when the secondary colour is quite dark. I did actually quite like the really detailed like petal design or whatever it is on these robes though, as it's rare we get robes with sort of unique designs on them. But yeah, these are fine. Now at the number 8 spot, I put Bayek's Medjay robes, and I think these are decent, obviously very different to what we'd come to expect by 2017, and I'd say they've got sort of a similar issue to Shay's robes, but to a lesser extent, where there's sort of too much going on here and they can feel a bit cluttered, but these robes don't quite have the dryness his or Evie's robes did. I think they definitely suit his character though. I like that these are sort of weathered around the tail and the hood. They reflect this experienced warrior that Bayek is when we start Origins, and I know these aren't particularly traditional assassin robes, but still, they're decent. So at the 7th spot on the list, I put Edward's, not default robes, but the modified Duncan Walpole robes, as he spent only 2 sequences with the original robes, and unlike Shay's second robes, these are still assassin robes. I like these, they suit Edward's character, I feel, as he has this leather padding on the upper torso of the robes, and they feel very unique to him, as he is a pirate and they do bring that out in him. And besides that, these robes are quite thin, so they don't quite lose that sleekness I was talking about earlier. There's a tiny bit too much colour, I feel, but these feel far much more refined than Shay's or even Bayek's robes, and again, they really suit Edward. So at number 6, I put Connor's robes, which were adapted from Edward's robes, and I do like these. I really like these robes as they're more simplistic than some of the earlier ones on this list. Simplicity isn't necessarily good, but it's preferable to robes that are bloated and have too much going on, and that's not the case with Connor's robes. From the back, you've got this primarily white, creamish colour, but then you've got these really nice blue accents that go so well together, and the way these come round to the front and into the sort of lapel looks really nice. It actually has a fair bit of colour, but it isn't like sort of full of tertiary like some of the others. The red on the sash, for example, isn't overbearing and looks really nice against the cream and the blue. The only thing I don't really like about these is the very ragged boots, but on the whole, these are good. So breaking into the top 5, I put Arno's robes, and these are the first ones I really love. I mean, look at these. A lot of the robes have an advantage because their respective games look better, and I have taken that into account, but no matter what, these robes are beautiful. The back is pretty much all blue, and I feel like there could have maybe been a bit more variety here with a sash or a special design or something, but it still does look nice. From the front, there's far more happening with these robes, but because it's all sort of concentrated to his upper torso, that's fine. I don't know why I'm analysing this like I'm a scientist or something. It's literally just AC Unity robes, like fucking chill out. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, the waistcoat and that like red scarf thing really give the robes a feeling of like elegance and class, and they do feel very French and generally European. Like, these are robes that fit really well with Unity and wouldn't fit as well with any other game. I do really like the colour blue for robes too. It was nice to have a base colour that wasn't white, and I don't know what other colours would work as just a primary base for the robes besides white and blue. Green could, I suppose. I always give Evie green robes in Syndicate, but anyway, that's me getting off topic. If you can't tell, I love Arno's robes. So at number 4 on the list, I put EZIO'S robes in AC2, Giovanni's robes, and these were my first assassin robes. They're class. I don't know why my first assassin robes is so funny to me, but yeah, these are classic. As I said earlier, older robes aren't given justice unless they're legacy outfits on more modern games, and this is another case of that. I love the shape of these. The tail at the bottom looks brilliant, and these robes look quite sophisticated without being, too much, as the colours remain quite consistent. They carried on the idea of robes being white and red, or more light grey than white, but nonetheless, it's an iconic colour scheme. I've always liked the collar of these robes a lot, as well as the baggy sleeves, as similarly to Unity's robes, they feel very tailored to the setting and the character, and underneath you still feel like a Florentine noble because it has that sort of class to it, and that's what I love about EZIO'S robes. They all reflect him at the time. To put it simply, these robes are iconic, nostalgic, and they have a great design, and they're still some of my favourite robes in all of Assassin's Creed. Speaking of iconic, robes really don't get more iconic than ALTAIR'S Master Assassin robes. Again, it's one of those where the graphics of the game let it down slightly, but looking at these in Unity or Revelations or Origins, they look far better than the original game, and they look beautiful. It's got that classic white and red colour scheme, and I feel it works really well with the brown accents on the belt, braces and boots. There's not really too much to say about the robes in regards to how much they hold to the others in the series, as these robes were basically the foundation of what we'd get in future. What's also notable is that these were actually practical and helping Altair blend with monks and scholars, and on the whole, these were brilliant, and I'm glad these were the robes that had sort of set the standard going forward. I'm not quite sure how controversial this is going to be, but at number 2 I put EZIO'S Revelations robes, and I've always loved these. At some point or another, every pair of EZIO'S robes has been my favourite, but I feel these robes definitely deserve the number 2 spot, at least somewhere in the top 3. We hadn't really seen anything like these robes at the time Revelations came out, and we still haven't, making these robes very unique. I think the largely grey colour of these really fit Ezio at the time, as he was an older man, and this was his last game, and I think grey really suits assassin robes, but at the same time you've still got like the red sash, which I feel really works with the grey. The fur on his left shoulder also looks really nice, and it's not like anything we've seen from past robes. The detail on the torso as well is also quite nice. I really love robes like this when they don't just look nice and are very unique, but they also just really suit the protagonist in their respective game, and the Revelations robes are still some of my favourites in the entire series. At the number 1 spot on the list, I've decided to go with EZIO'S Roman robes, which feels sort of like a combination of Giovanni's and ALTAIR'S robes, and I think these are basically perfect. Again, you've got the red and white colour scheme, but they look more sophisticated and grown up than Giovanni's robes, if that makes any sense, in their size, the patterns on the arms, and also the assassin insignia on the belt, as at this point Ezio's matured and he's a leader, basically. The tail on these is really nice, and these do look really sleek, which makes sense for Ezio being basically in his prime, which is reflected in the combat, and that speed makes sense with these robes, as they do feel quite lighter than Giovanni's in like the tail and the general shape, and everything about these, from the really nice collar to the cape, it all feels like it suits Ezio for who he is in Brotherhood, and in all, these are my favourite default Assassin's Creed robes. So there you go guys, I've just spoke for 8 minutes about robes in Assassin's Creed. I hope that wasn't too dull. As I say, I don't really know fashion or really how to speak about clothes. As is standard, this is an opinion, and I'd love to know your guys' favourite robes, or even just optional ones, and that's a list that I'll definitely have to get around to at some point. Again, I'm sorry about there being 3 days between uploads. I hate doing this, I like for it just to be 2, but I've just been super busy in real life and trying to work on this Origins video at the same time. But despite that, the channel's still doing really well. We hit 5k a few days ago, like 6 days ago, and we're at 6k already, so thank you guys for that. That's insane. But yeah, that's about all for today. I'll do my best to have the next video out in 2 days time. Again, I'm sorry about that, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, maybe leave a like, and if you didn't, maybe let me know why. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time.